What is up, everyone? My name is Jack Southall, and finally, I get to talk about this show, this WrestleMania 17. Hands down, the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Many people have said it. Many people have claimed that it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time. After seeing the show, this is like my second or third time I've seen this pay-per-view. It's perfect. It's the perfect wrestling show, in my opinion. Hell, the perfect WrestleMania. But it's actually not my favorite WrestleMania. My favorite WrestleMania is coming soon. But for now, this is, without question, across the board, many people consider the greatest WrestleMania of all time. So, we get an opening promo showing like people all over the world watching classic WrestleMania moments, and it's like really epic, and it definitely set the scene for what this WrestleMania was going to deliver. So this took place at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, and Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, formerly of ECW, who had just gone out of business, I think a few weeks before this show. He's on commentary for WrestleMania 17, and he would be one of the lead commentators in 2001. So it was definitely a very big time for the WWF, because you had ECW go out of business, and then a little bit later WCW going out of business. So it was a very crazy time for wrestling fans. Like, everything was just going off, man. So we kick things off with the Intercontinental Championship match. Chris Jericho is defending against William Regal. So William Regal around this time was the commissioner of the WWF, and he had just put Jericho in unfair matches after, Jericho mocked him during his inauguration as becoming commissioner of WWF after replacing Mick Foley. So Jericho ends up getting his revenge by pissing in Regal's tea. This caused Regal to book himself in an IC title match against Jericho at WrestleMania. And this was a pretty good match. Pretty good way to open up WrestleMania X-Seven. It's very quick, but still very, very good. So Regal started going after Jericho's left shoulder early on, which I think was like injured a little bit, and even hit a nice double underhook suplex. And he tried to apply a Regal stretch, but then Jericho managed to get out of it, and he got the upper hand of the match by even hitting the lion salt on him to retain his championship. So yeah, Chris Jericho had just gone off, has become one of the most popular wrestlers of the last 12 months in WWF, and he would go on to be a major player in next year's WrestleMania, even main eventing it. So yeah, good way to open up the show. After that, we had Right to Censor. This fucking duo. So Right to Censor was a group containing Venis, Bull Buchanan, the Goodfather, Steven Richards, and Ivory. And this duo was basically WWE's way of taking the piss out of the Parents Television Council, I think it's what it's called. And what they were these like crazy just people that would like censor everything. Like if a diva was about to take a top off, they would like cover it up with a censor bar, or if someone was about to swear or a match was getting really, really violent, they'd try to censor it. So it was a pretty funny gimmick at the time, which I didn't mind. So Venis, Bull Buchanan, and Goodfather were the participants in this match, and they took on Tazz and the A.P.A. with Jacqueline in their corner. A.P.A. and had a bit of a cigar and all that before their match at WrestleMania. It was really fun. I loved their little backstage things they'd have with just the door, and they'd be smoking cigars, playing poker, and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. So quick match as well, but still very fun. Tazz and the A.P.A. won when Bradshaw hit Goodfather with a clothesline from hell. So yeah, nothing to complain about here. It was short and sweet, and was a lot of fun just seeing the A.P.A. and Tazz kind of do their thing. So we get Trish Stratus helping to roll Linda McMahon in a wheelchair, because Linda was in she was in a comatose state. I'll get to why when we talk about the Vince and Shane Street fight. But Trish is rolling her in a wheelchair when Stephanie McMahon-Helmsley shows up to mock Linda and tells Trish, after the match, make sure you help me out with the drinks and, to break the ice properly and all that kind of a stuff. So, by the way, Stephanie McMahon, she looked good in whatever she was wearing. So, Yeah. After that was a triple threat match for the Hardcore Championship. Raven defending against Kane and the Big Show. This match was crazy. This match was all over the place, but you know what? It was fun as fuck. So Raven, when he was coming out, just carried out this shopping trolley full of random items, and yeah, it was absolute chaos. They fought around the entire arena, even fighting to the backstage area. It was like playing like Shut Your Mouth or Here Comes the Pain, where you got to fight backstage and all that. I feel like this is what maybe is this the match maybe that THQ was inspired to go with the whole fighting backstage. When they fight to the backstage area, just it goes off. Like Raven gets fucking slammed through glass, like a glass window. Kane and Big Show like not chokeslam each other, but they were like choking each other, and they bust through one of the walls in like a room somewhere backstage. And so Raven tries to escape in a golf cart, and so I think Big Show jumps on the back of it, and they almost crash into one of the cables. And Raven even said that if he would have crashed even further, there was one of the cables that could have snapped, and he would have shut power to the entire show, which that would have been a nightmare for the WWF. So thankfully that didn't happen. So they fight back to the entrance stage, and Big Show goes to gorilla press slam Raven off of it, but then Kane big boots him, and both men fall into an area and just bust through an area that's around like the big WrestleMania pillars that are between the Titantron and the entrance. So Kane then decides to jump off the stage and just land on both of them, and he wins the Hardcore title. So yeah, really, really fun match. I had it was really good to watch. It was just crazy, chaotic, hardcore action. That's all I could want from a Hardcore title match. So yeah, fun overall. This show is just the definition of fun, because that's what wrestling should be all about, just having fun. So after that was the European Championship match. Test defending against Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, with Perry Saturn in his corner. So the build-up for this was Eddie was the official for Test's match against X Factor, which was a team made up of X-Pac, Albert, and Just Incredible. And screwed him over in the match last Monday on Raw, basically. And so the match itself was solid. I wouldn't say it was like one of the better matches on the show, but you know, it was a solid match. I mean, Eddie Guerrero, he can really put on. He's one of those wrestlers that could put on a great match with just about anyone, even with someone like Test, who was a good big man, but was really lacking in the character department, in my opinion. But they have a pretty standard, pretty good match. Perry Saturn tried to keep distracting the ref, which gave like Eddie Guerrero a chance to like maybe attack Test from behind, something like that. So Test at one point goes for the pin, but then Dean Malenko shows up and pulls his legs out of the ring. And so while Test and the ref were distracted by Malenko, Eddie hits him with the European title, pins him, and wins the European Championship. So yeah, fine enough match. I didn't have any problems with it. Eddie Guerrero becoming European champion, I don't have issues with. And yeah, fine enough match. And then we get to a really good match. Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. So when Kurt Angle comes out to the ring, he cuts a promo to the fans and all that, saying how he's not a fan of Texas, and he's glad that he can make a point in Texas that he will not tap out to Benoit in front of them. And he says as well, also lose the freaking cowboy hats, which is funny to hear that, considering what he would do in the next few months involving cowboy hats. So both men start off with some amateur mat wrestling, which was really cool, because since Kurt really showed off why he was a Olympic gold medalist. He didn't have a broken freaking neck in this match, but yeah, it kept going for a while until just Kurt got frustrated with Benoit out wrestling him, and they started fighting on the outside. And so Benoit locked in the crossface, but unfortunately the ref was knocked down, and so he tried hitting the diving headbutt, but he only got a 2 count, and then Angle won the match by rolling him up using his tights. So yeah, it was a great match. I really enjoyed the mat wrestling aspect at the start, and how it eventually would build up to more the typical WWF style, with the brawling to the outside and all the big moves and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really, really fucking good match. So William Regal gets interviewed by Michael Cole. He's walking off back to his commissioner's office, and when he sees Kamala and Kim Chi basically trashing it, And then they show a little bit of the WrestleMania pep rally with the US military and the WWF superstars, which was pretty cool. After we saw that, Kevin Kelly interviewed Kurt Angle backstage and how if he respects the efforts of Benoit put against him in the match. And he says he doesn't respect him because he's the better man and he won and all that. But then Benoit attacks him from out of nowhere and then locks him in the crippler crossface and makes him force a tap with it. So I think Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit continue the feud. I think they have like an ultimate submission match at Judgment Day or one of those other pay-per-views. But yeah, they had a really damn good feud between each other. After that was the Women's Championship match. Ivory defending against Chyna. The storyline was kind of interesting. So at the Royal Rumble, Chyna injured, and I put that in quotation marks, her neck in a match against Ivory, causing her to lose. So Ivory got a hold harmless clause, meaning if Ivory injured Chyna's neck, there would be no legal recourse from it. But also in the contract, it contained that right to censor were banned from ringside in the match. So basically, Chyna just beats her in like 2.5 minutes to win the women's title. So it was basically a squash match for Chyna, which I didn't have a problem with. Chyna looked great. I liked how she shot the rockets. She had a rocket launcher and shot it into the crowd during her entrance. It was really cool. And yeah, Chyna had a good showing in this match, and she became women's champion, so nothing to complain there. So Michael Cole interviews Vince before his street fight against his son Shane McMahon and mentions how Shane McMahon had bought WCW last Monday on Raw, and Vince basically says, you know, if you want shocking, you're gonna get it. And let's just say we definitely get some shocking stuff in the street fight. So the story, Jesus Christ. So Vince basically wanted to divorce Linda, and Linda kind of freaked out about it and had a nervous breakdown, which Vince was secretly happy about, and it was so bad that it left Linda in a comatose state. And Vince, being the piece of shit that he is, decides to have an on-air affair with Trish Stratus because he's a cunt. Basically, Vince is a cunt. And what made him even more cunty, he would make Trish do these really embarrassing things, like asking her to like strip in front of him into a lingerie and to bark like a dog and all that. But then Trish stayed loyal to Vince. It was very awkward television, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, it was kind of fucked up what Vince did. But Shane McMahon had enough of his dad's bullshit and came back after leaving for a little bit and just like punched the shit out of Vince for basically putting his family through hell, and his mother through hell. And so on the final Raw before WrestleMania, one of the biggest and most shocking moments in the history of wrestling took place when Vince McMahon said he now owns WCW. There was the simulcast between Raw and Nitro on the final ever Nitro in Panama City Beach, Florida, where Shane McMahon showed up and basically announced that on the contract it does say McMahon, however the contract reads Shane McMahon. So now he's the one that owns WCW. He even pointed out to some of the WCW stars sitting in one of the special boxes to watch WrestleMania. So this match was crazy as well, but it told a really fun story, I felt like. Shane started off really strong against Vince. They were using weapons on each other, and so Shane went to dive from the top rope. You know how he does that crazy thing where he dives from the top rope and goes through the announce table? Well, he completely misses because Trish pulls Vince off of the table, and it looks like, because she had wheeled out Linda to ringside, and it looked like, she was going to help out Vince, but Nup slaps him across the face, and then Stephanie McMahon's like, what the fuck are you doing to my dad? And they have a bit of a cat fight, and Trish chases her up the ramp. And so, hands down, the best part of this match. So yeah, Mick Foley was the special guest referee for this match as well, and Vince basically took him out with a chair because Mick wanted to help out Linda. And so what he does is he takes Linda's motionless body, chucks her into the ring, makes her sit in a chair in the corner, and he says to him, watch me as I beat the shit out of your son. So he smacks him with a chair a few times, and so he goes to hit him for the third time. Linda rises up from her chair to a massive pop from the crowd, by the way. Vince realizes, oh shit, and she just kicks him right in the nuts. Right afterwards, Mick Foley then goes after Vince for a bit, and then Shane hits a coast to coast with a garbage can in his face to win the match. So yeah, Really fun match as well. I really enjoyed it. Oh man, it was nuts. Vince can do some fucked up shit sometimes, and this was a great display of that, especially with the storyline for it. This was the storyline match of the night, and they told a great story in this. So yeah, nothing to complain here. Had a lot of fun watching this match. But if you thought the street fight and the hardcore title match was crazy, oh, you are not ready for the TLC match. The second TLC match between the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian for the Tag Team Championships. This is a legendary match. This has become legendary status as one of the best matches in WrestleMania history. Where do I start with some of the crazy spots in this match? Like Bubba powerbombing Jeff onto Edge through a table, and like someone would run in on the behalf of each team. So like Spike ran in for the Dudleys and hit like a crazy Dudley dog on Christian through the table on the outside, and then Rhino comes in and he just basically speared a bunch of cunts throughout the match. He even like speared Matt Hardy through a table and he smacked his head on the turnbuckle post, which looked nasty. Lita came out. God damn, Lita. And JR's commentary line, when she comes out to push Edge off the ladder, he's like, Lita jerking Edge off the ladder. If that isn't some foreshadowing right there, then oh man. JR knew from day one it was going to happen, the whole thing between Edge and Lita. So, just Dudley's hit a Doomsday Device on Rhino, and then Lita gets 3D'd by the Dudleys. Jeff is hands down the craziest person in this match. He swantons off a 20-foot ladder onto Rhino and Spike Dudley through tables, and then he like uses the ladders as stilts almost to get to the tag titles, and he uses the ladder to get the belt. Bubba takes the ladders out of Jeff's feet, and in one of the craziest moments in WrestleMania history, Edge spears Jeff Hardy from the top to the floor, like 25 feet from the ground, and boom. Like, it's one of the best moments in WrestleMania history, hands down. Like, Edge even said that he like DDT'd himself when he was doing that spot, and it kind of looked like it. Jeff fucked himself up as well from that, so they were basically done. And if that wasn't enough, Matt and Bubba get pushed off the ladder, and both of them crash through 4 tables. Rhino helps Edge and Christian win the tag team titles, and that was the match right there. So, wow. Just wow. If you haven't seen this match, man, this is one of the most essential matches you have to see as a wrestling fan. If you have a friend that goes, oh, wrestling doesn't hurt, it's all fake and all that, show them this match. And if they don't understand it after that, nothing will. So, after that craziness, we needed something to calm the fans down a little bit. And what the perfect way was to have a gimmick battle royal. A fun little gimmick match where a bunch of old wrestlers came back to have a quick little battle royal. So, even Mean Gene Okerlund and Bobby the Brain Heenan were on commentary. So, a nice little nostalgic blast from the past with this match. So, the participants were Bushwhackers, Duke the Dumpster Drozy, the Iron Sheik, Earthquake, the Goon, for anyone who remembers the Goon, Doink the Clown, Kamala with Harvey Whippleman and Kim Chi, Repo Man, Jim Cornette, Nikolai Volkov, Michael P.S. Hayes, One Man Gang, the Gobbledygooker even, Tugboat, Hillbilly Jim, Brother Love, and Sergeant Slaughter were the participants of this match. The Iron Sheik won this match after eliminating Hillbilly Jim, but right afterwards, Sergeant Slaughter locked in the Cobra Clutch on him, and yeah, the fun match. Really, the entrances were more fun than the actual match, that we'll just say that. So, yeah, great little nostalgic match right there. And then we get to Triple H versus The Undertaker. I really like the build-up for this match as well. So, Triple H is basically claiming, you know, I've beaten every major star, But Undertaker comes out on, I think this was on a SmackDown, and mentions that he hasn't beaten him and that he'll make him famous, because that was this like t-shirt slogan at the time. And he even attacks Taker backstage, and he places the chair above Taker's neck and just sits on it, and says that he's already famous for crippling people. So yeah, this was badass game, cerebral assassin Triple H. My favorite Triple H. It was so fucking awesome during this time period. And Triple H puts a restraining order on Taker against Stephanie McMahon so that Taker can't attack her or anything like that. But Undertaker mentions she doesn't have a restraining order against Kane, his brother. And so Kane holds Stephanie McMahon up and is about to throw her off of a balcony, which is just crazy. And you hear her screaming, "No, put me down," and all that stuff. And William Regal's like, "You can't fucking do that. You can't threaten to kill a woman." And he goes, "All right, we won't do it unless you give me a match with Triple H against WrestleMania." And Commissioner Regal's like, "Fine, just don't kill Stephanie." Motorhead played Triple H's theme music, his classic entrance theme. Motorhead, the band played well, but poor Lemmy just fucked up the words, man. You could tell he didn't give a shit what he was singing. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm here at WrestleMania, just give me my fucking paycheck." But you know what? I'm gonna let that slide because Lemmy is a fucking badass. So rest in peace, man. This was a really good match. A really, really good match. I wouldn't say it's as good as the matches they would have 10 years later, but still, this was very damn good. So, after Taker knocked out Mike Chioda, who just died throughout the match, these two guys basically just fought around the arena throughout a good chunk of this match. Like, even Undertaker chokeslammed Triple H off of, like, some scaffolding near the crowd. Like, it was pretty nuts. And so Taker goes for like a last ride on Triple H, but when he's about to like slam him, Triple H smacks him in the head with a sledgehammer and goes to pin him, but then he kicks out, and so he goes to hit some punches in the corner again, but Undertaker picks him up, actually hits the last ride this time, and wins the match. So yeah, this was around the time that the WWF started to acknowledge the streak of The Undertaker and how he's become at this point 9-0 at WrestleMania. So yeah, really, really cool match. Very violent. Not too violent, but still, it was a lot of fun to watch. This whole pay-per-view is just a fun watch overall. But then we get to the motherfucking main event. Oh my god. For the WWF Championship, in a no DQ match, The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. What more do I have to say about this other than it's The Rock versus Stone Cold? That in itself can be the build-up. But, yeah, the promo package for this match is amazing. It goes to the tune of the theme song, My Way by Limp Bizkit, which I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Limp Bizkit fan, but it's probably the best song they've ever made, in my opinion. So, Stone Cold had won the 2001 Royal Rumble, while The Rock beat Kurt Angle for the WWF title at No Way Out. And during this, Vince decided to make Deborah The Rock's manager just to cause a bit of friction between The Rock and Austin. See, Vince was in total cunt mode in early 2001. So, on the March 12th episode of Raw, Kurt Angle locked in an ankle lock on Deborah, causing Austin having to run in to make the save, and he stunned The Rock for it as punishment because he said, "Look, if anything happens to my wife, it's your responsibility, mate." And so the next week on Raw, Rock hits Austin with a rock bottom in response to Austin's stunner. Just awesome. Everything about this main event is awesome. Austin even came out to his theme song that Disturbed did, which I love Disturbed. That's one of my favorite bands. So, both men started off brawling. They both get busted open after hitting each other with the ring bell. And, Rock would lock in the sharpshooter. And it reminded me a lot of Austin's match at WrestleMania 13 with the blood dripping down his face. And then Austin would do the same to Rock. He would even, lock in the $1 Million Dream at this point. He was doing whatever he could to beat The Rock for the WWF title. And The Rock would pull a Bret Hart and would propel himself off of the turnbuckle post and would land onto Stone Cold to get the pinfall. And then Vince McMahon shows up for some reason, and we're like, what the fuck is Vince doing here? So Rock hits the people's elbow, but then Vince pulls Rock off of the cover. Rock's like, what the hell are you doing, Vince? Chases him around, but he gets smacked in the face with a chair. but he kicks out at 2. And this is when the ending of the match that people just got shocked at, because Austin gets assistance by Vince McMahon. Like, Vince gives Austin the chair, and he's just wailing in on The Rock, just beating the shit out of him with this steel chair. Even with a stunner, The Rock kicked out at 2. So The Rock still looked really, really strong in this match. But Austin just went crazy with the steel chair shot. So much so that after he did that, he pinned The Rock and became the WWF champion. And he's staring Vince in the eyes after the match and shakes hands with Satan himself. It was crazy because these two guys had just went through everything with each other. These two men could not stand each other. It was the greatest feud in the history of WWF. To finally see those two shake hands, it was almost like a betrayal to the fans in a way. But like, even then, after this, Austin was still getting cheered because he was too fucking over. That he could have done the worst thing ever and people would still cheer him. That's how over Austin was. So, yeah, even Austin himself regretted that finish. Like, he would have said, you know, if I would have hit the stunner on Vince McMahon, it would have been perfect. And you know what? I agree with him on that. But, you know, at the time, it was a nice shock to see. But I can definitely see why Austin would kind of regret that decision. But this in no way took away from this pay-per-view. It was just, this pay-per-view was just fucking incredible. And that's how we end the show. Match of the night. Oh, God, which one? I love the main event. I loved Undertaker and Triple H. There was no bad match on this card. And the matches that were, like, weak were only short, so we didn't have to put up with them much. But if I have to pick one, it has to be TLC 2. Has to be. It was just, those 6 men put each other through too much pain for me not to award them match of the night. It was just fantastic. This show was just fantastic. How I'm going to rate this show, it is a perfect 10 out of 10 show. It might quite possibly be the greatest pay-per-view of all time, in my opinion. But it's not my favorite Mania of all time. It's not even my personal favorite pay-per-view of all time. We get to that later on, and I'll tell you when we get to that show. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed. I certainly did. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on WrestleMania 17. Do you think it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time, or do you think it's another WrestleMania? Let me know. And if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. You'll be glad you did. Twitter and Instagram is at JuckmanLaw31 if you want to check me out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm out in 3, 2, 1.